Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creative Blog and Article Writing Show with me, Sab in Paris. And today I'm wearing a rather fetching hot coffee, always fresh, holding it rather dangerously over my computer, and natural. There you go. I don't think coffee's really natural, because if we ate it naturally, we'd be eating the seeds fresh from the plants, and we don't do that, do we? We roast them and we make them hard, and then we grind them, and then we add sugar and cream and stuff to them. So natural's one of those words, isn't it, that you've got to be a little teeny weeny bit wary of. It's like bio. In a way, everything's natural, you know. Everything's bio, everything's kind of related to nature, even chemicals, you know. Water's a chemical, you know, H2O. So, hello. It's Sab here, Sab in Paris. And I do 4 shows in 2 weeks. And this one is the writing one. Everything and anything I can think of about writing. I'll show you my writing. I will look at other people's writing. I'll look at your writing if you want to share it with me. I let you into my writing process. I write every day. And I'm very happy to share with you both my writing. So I will read you my latest stuff and also talk a little bit about the process of how I write. Also, I will tell you about how I look at the reason for writing, what I'm after. This occurred to me just a moment ago. Not always something we talk about. We might talk about the writing process, how to write. We can share our writing, we can read it, you know, people can like it or not, but we don't often talk about what's driving us to write. And I'm a little different to some people that I know, in that I'm driven extremely strongly to write. In fact, I've got to the point now where I can't stop myself from writing. I have to write every day. It's not even that I have to, it's that that's just what I do. I write every day. There are days when I don't write, but those are days where I've been so busy for, you know, family reasons, work, that I haven't managed to write that day. But I catch up because I have given myself a writing aim, a daily writing aim. And the way it works is it has to be a complete thing. I want to have completed a piece of writing that pleases me creatively, artistically, profoundly at the end of each day. But the deal is, there are some days when I can't do it. If I go on holiday, for example, you know, I'm not going to, you know, ignore my kid because I have to do my writing today when I could do it tomorrow. But if I miss a day, that day doesn't go away. It still has to be written for, but I'll do it the next day. So I've developed this ethos, and this ethos is, I have found a way of writing that I like, a certain number of, not number of words, but roughly the size of the writing, the format, the topic. It's all been sorted out. I know what I do. And I also know how and when I do it. I do it daily. In other words, at the end of a year, I will have written 365 pieces. At the end of a week, I'll have written 7. Give or take a tiny bit of leeway if I get behind, or if I get excited about a topic, I sometimes publish in advance. If I've written something and I'm so excited about getting it out there and then moving on, but getting it out there, that's the thrill. That's my shoot. I don't know what you call it. You know, my fix. That's my fix, is to publish, to get it out onto the internet. And then I can move on. I relax. I've done it, move on. It's out there. It's part of me. It's part of anyone else that wants it to be part of them. And that's the way I do it. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, which before I'm going to show you loads of stuff. I'm going to show you my latest writing, various other projects. But the other thing I wanted to say is, why write? What am I looking for? And how do I feel good about my writing? And I'm not like a lot of people, because a lot of people, their objective seems to be to get a paper book published probably not self-published, although self-publishing is becoming more respectable these days, but still, it's still seen as the poor person's proper publishing. Get your book published by a proper publishing house with a proper editor, on paper, in bookshops, not distributed by you. And the best of the best is to get onto the New York Times bestseller list or the Sunday Times bestseller list or something like this. This is absolutely not my objective. Does that mean that my writing isn't good enough to be on those lists or to be published? Am I hiding? Am I not trying just in case they say no? Well, no, I'm just not drawn to it. I'm not drawn to those shiny goals. And I'm extremely drawn to writing and publishing every single day for anyone who wants to read it. So you don't have to pay to read my stuff. You can read it anywhere and everywhere. And I have become very disillusioned and cynical about people who do vaunt their so-called #1 Amazon or New York Times bestseller list. And I think cynicism, or at least an extremely acute way of looking at things, is a good thing for a writer. Don't swallow other people's BS. And so often, people who say they are something or other #1 best-selling author, if you look into it, it may be some obscure sub category of Amazon somewhere, and they were #1 for a week because they got all their friends to get it, and you can get on #1 in that category by selling 10 copies. I'm kind of exaggerating and putting a lot of things together in one sentence there, but so many of those things are like that. And that doesn't interest me. The more someone puts into explicitly marketing their stuff, in a way, the less interested I am. I just bought a book, and I'll read it. I'll read you what it says on it, if I can find it. I just bought a book, and here it is on the back. It says, "Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book, and there are none inside either. Imploring you to read it. I vetoed that. The only testimonial I am interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me, read this book about you," etc. And that, I bought it. You see, it's a big book. It cost, I don't know, quite a few euros. I'm that far through it, midway through it. It's called this, The Ultimate Coach by Amy Hardison. And the only publicity the guy did, reluctantly, it's about a coach, was a sort of reluctant video about it. That really got me. I loved it. There's this other guy who I won't go give any details just in case. Sorry, my computer has just done something that it shouldn't have. I've got two screens, and if I nudge one screen too much, it disappears. So that's upset all of my my nice planning of the layout of stuff. Let's see what happens, shall we? So there's another guy, and every single sentence that he utters includes the words, "I'm a Sunday Times bestseller." And it's so incredibly boring that I've really gone off him, even though I like his content. So this can work both ways. Right, so I've just been perturbed by my second screen going blank. So I'm going to see if I can get it to not go blank. Breathe very gently and try and rearrange my windows. Oh well, that's life. Hopefully it hasn't closed all my windows. Right, so let me move on. Let me move on to some reading and writing. I'm gonna share my first screen here, and I'll be setting it up now that my screen went strange on me. Right, so I'm going to share my screen. This is the group I want you to belong to if you're not a member already. It's called Creative Blog and Article Writing. And I realized that I haven't really been talking too much about creative blog and article writing. So I might be doing a little bit more of that. That was an attempt to do that in the introduction, telling you a little bit about my process. And my process is very simple. I write a bit every day. That's it. That's actually it. What about you? Say hello if you're watching this. What's your writing process? What do you do? How do you get yourself to write regularly? Do you have a writing schedule? Do you write once a day? Do you write once a week? Do you write on Sunday afternoons? Do you write when you get the writing bug? How does it work for you? I'd love to know. There's no right or wrong reason. All I'm saying is that I have worked out that I need to write on a regular basis. I've found what I want to write, and I'll show you what it is. It's a very, well, I've got various things, but the thing I do every day is very clear. It fits on top of a particular sized photo. So this is a group, Creative Blog and Article Writing. Please join it. Tell your friends that they can share. You can share your writing in this group anytime you like. There's a weekly theme. At the moment, it's talking trees. Okay, so if I'd like you to talk about trees, write about trees, and if trees ever talk to you, I'd like you to write about that too. I'm going to move over to show you my current writing. This is what I'm doing right now. So let's see if I can. Okay, here we go. So this is on top of a photograph. I wake up in the morning, and if I don't have anything else to do, I will start writing. This is on top of a photo. If I get rid of the writing, that's going to go, that's going to go, and that can go. This is a photograph. And normally the photograph inspires the writing. The photograph is inspired by Paris, but I don't always write about Paris. The photograph is almost always about Paris. But my writing just takes this as a backdrop. It might be a gentle nudge. I might write about Paris, or I might write about life, the universe, and everything. And as it happens, on this particular one that I haven't finished yet, or it's almost finished, I'm writing about writing. And I shall now, do I write about writing? Let me see. Yeah, I do. So let me read this to you and see what you think. So this hasn't been polished. It's not raw, but it's not quite ready to go. Hands up who believes in syndromes. Now, let me just give you a bit of background. I've been publishing photographs on numbers recently. I've got a mini project where I take photographs of all the beautiful street numbers in Paris. And here was another number photograph. And I thought, oh God, hang on. I can't write about numbers again. What can I do this time? So I thought, well, I'll write about writing. And this is what has come out so far. Hands up who believes in syndromes. What is a syndrome anyway? Before I check, I'd say it's a condition, physical or psychological, characterized by certain behaviors or beliefs which impact the possessor of said syndrome in a generally negative way. You can see now why I don't write dictionaries. And according to the pros, it's a combination of medical problems related to a disease or a type of negative behavior or mental state typical of a person in a particular situation. I am thinking I may have imposter syndrome. I hesitate about highlighting my own writing on my own writing show. Many writers talk about little else other than their writing, not mine. My dear departed gran thought I should write dictionaries because I'm so good with words, the poor deluded love. She suffered from glorious grandson syndrome, forgetting that dictionaries were the source of my words in the first place. Right now, I tell wannabe scribes to write now, compose spontaneously and copiously, and like in any good story, they'll be excited to see what happens next. I may also be suffering from acute rose-tinted lenses syndrome. I joke with French friends that Brits believe resolutely in quantity over quality, like with food. Funnily enough, though, the former often begets the latter in the end. Better to splurge syllables than succumb to sad blank page syndrome. that's what I just read. And in that, I often use my writing. Sometimes it's for others and sometimes it's for me. Sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes I'm trying to impart interesting anecdotes or knowledge to others. And sometimes I'm trying to work out what the hell I think about something. And I invariably try to do it in at least a reasonably creative way. So in this piece, I'm not quite sure where the syndromes thing came from, but that became the theme that went through it. If you count the number of times I've said the word syndrome, it's probably about 5 or 6, and about 3 of those actually talk about a specific syndrome. One is, I've said syndrome 3 times in the first paragraph, and then in the third paragraph, I mention imposter syndrome. Then I invent one of my grandmother called glorious grandson syndrome. Then later on, I talk about rose-tinted lenses syndrome, and I finish with blank page syndrome. So there's a lot of repetition in there, building on the theme. It's not repeating the same expression. It's consolidating with different examples of a syndrome, most of them made up. Not necessarily. The blank page syndrome is an interesting one. And of course, I've tried to, tell sort of stories in there, play around with words every now and then, right now, and so on. And this is what's come out. So I did this in about, I don't know, maybe half an hour, 20 minutes, I'm not sure. Got it out there. Then the best thing is to leave it, to let it simmer. And is that what you call it? In French, I have the word. It's when it just bubbles, marinate. Let it marinate for a while. The best thing, I think, is to leave it overnight. There's something amazing happens when you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, and you look at a piece that you wrote the night before. Something has changed in you. I was going to say in it, but you are able to spot how it could be improved. You spot the repetitions that you've made, which could have been one word could have been replaced by another one. You spot the weaker words, which could be replaced by richer ones. In some cases, you spot often with me, you spot the wordiness, which could be reduced down. There's another aspect to writing to a limit. My limit is a certain font size in a certain space. The space I have is a picture which is 900 pixels squared. You're looking at it. And the font, you're looking at it. Very, very occasionally, I will reduce the font or even make it bigger sometimes for special occasions. But this is normally it. This is very rare for me to fill the entire image. I hardly ever do that. I normally try to keep it smaller. Sometimes I ramble, but I don't go over. You see, I've literally used every single space I could. That's what came out today. And, never mind about the image. That's life. Normally, I will try and craft the words around the image. So the important part of the image shows through. And I'll show you that in a second. And I get it out there. I wash my hands of it. I put everything I possibly can in the time given, the inspiration I have, which is pretty constant. It's normally pretty much the same. And I get it out there. I get it out there every day. It's finished. It's a finished piece. That's the way I work. I very rarely do things that carry over. I start a piece, I work on it, and I stop, and it's more or less finished. It's not the same for painting, but for writing, that seems to be the best way. And I try to force myself to not publish it yet and sleep on it and look at it the next day, make a couple of changes. Very often, a new anecdote or a play on words has come to me or comes to me when I'm looking at it for the second time. When you look at something for the second time, it's once you've left it for a while, it's as though you're looking at somebody else's words. And it's quite surprising. You see it in a different light. You're not lost in the creative process. And you can spot some of the things that could be improved. Okay, feel free to say hello if you're watching the comments, if you're watching the replay or live. I'm very happy to have you say hello and also to ask me any questions. Ask me questions about writing. ask me questions, make comments on what I'm talking about. That would be very nice. What about your writing? How do you write? Do you manage to write with no worries at all? It just flows? Do you have a certain time of the day? These are all the sorts of things that we can talk about. Let me actually change the screen so that it's not just looking at those words. I have read lots of books on writing and how to organize yourself and all the rest of it. Morning routines, evening routines, writing for a certain amount of time each day, a certain number of words. And I've found my thing. And my thing happens to be, no, it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. It can be last thing at night. My limits are, I must produce a complete piece of written work every day, and I mustn't let myself get more than 2 or 3 days behind. And that works. There's something in me that triggers me. If I'm 2 or 3 days behind, I start getting irritated and annoyed and nervous, and I will do what it takes to catch up. Maybe I have to write 2 each day for 3 days. That works, and I'm back up to date. The only reason that works for me is because I found something that is not an effort for me to do. And you need to do that as well. You need to find the thing where you do it in spite of yourself. You do it because you don't have a choice, and the choice is not, it's self-imposed. You can't imagine not doing it. It's just something you do. That's the sort of person you are. I highly recommend you write every day if you're a writer. I don't care what you write. I used to be a little bit more timid on this and say, write when you want, do it your way, do it the way you want, that's best for you. Don't push yourself. I'm moving away from that now, because I think if you're to write regularly and a lot and well, and if I'm to have any worth in your life, if I'm to be of any use to you at all, I shouldn't be telling you to take it easy. I should be encouraging you to do something specific. And this is it. Write once a day or once a week. Those are the 2 things that I recommend. Any less often than that, and you're not really a writer, or you're writing from time to time. So set yourself this goal. Write every week and make it measurable, not just, decide what's it going to be. What are you going to write? Is it a chapter? Is it a poem? Is it a story? Is it a meme? It doesn't matter, but have something. Is it a page? Is it a page in your book? Some way you can measure it, which is fun, which you like. And like I said, if you don't know how much you're going to write, make it a page in your book, or an entry or something. Not nothing, not blank page syndrome. We don't do that. We write. If you don't know what to write, take a pen and a piece of paper and write on it, I have no idea what to write. No idea at all. Maybe one day I will. Maybe 1 minute I will. Maybe 1 second I will. In fact, to be honest, it seems like I'm writing now, but I'm not really writing anything worthwhile writing. Or am I? That's a good question, because Sab said I should just write anything and it would start to flow. And in fact, it has. Now, I wonder if anything useful is going to come. Well, maybe the fact that, etc., etc., etc. And before you know it, you've written a page. Who cares if it's nonsense or not? The fact is, you're a writer. If you start the day with a blank page and you finish it and it's not blank anymore, and there are words on it that came from your pen linked to your arm, which is full of your blood, then you're a writer. That's it. When I coach people, or potentially coach people, I ask them, so what have you written in the last week? If I'm feeling particularly mean or aggressive, I'll say, so what have you written today? But it depends. It depends how I'm feeling. But I will certainly say, so what have you written this week? Or what are you working on at the moment? And I expect them to tell me something. And if they're not, it's okay. But it tells me something about, what sort of writer they are. And it also tells me if they're really a writer, or if they're just pretending to be, or if they would like to be one. So the first thing I would ever get anyone to do is to write. Even if before coaching them, I would set them an assignment and I would say, write something. And I'd give them a time limit, possibly. Or I'd say, okay, write something and show me when you finished. But if they're not capable of writing, and I will say clearly, I don't care what it is. I have no interest in what it is. I'm interested in what you write. I'll be interested in your writing, but I don't care what you present me with. But if you present me with nothing, that's another challenge. I will have very little to work with if you can't even produce some writing. Even if you say you've got writer's block, even if you say I'm completely lost in what I'm doing, etc., etc. Well, words have to drip from your pen at some point or other. And for me, I'd rather it happened before we start working together than after, because that might be a bit of an uphill struggle. So the thing is to write and realize that you're a writer. I'm going to try and show you some of my stuff that I've written this week. Tell me what this is sounding like to you on the replay or live. Is this making sense? Is this nonsense? I'm rambling. I'm also a rambler. Did I tell you that? I just ramble. So let me share this week's productivity, and I'll show you some memes later on as well. For those of you who like memes, just trying to remember where I put this thing. Okay. That's actually showing up quite well. I wrote an article this week, by the way, on 𝗖𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗜𝗍𝗂. I was feeling really missing actually writing a proper article. So I wrote one for 𝗖𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗜𝗍𝗂.com. 𝗖𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗑.com is where I put articles, proper articles. It's about the only place I actually write proper articles. I've got another site for memes. I've got the site for the Paris things on the top of my photographs. I've got another site. I've just forgotten what, a poetry site. And I didn't have one for articles, basically a blog. So I created 𝗖𝗥𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗑.com, and it's for proper articles, you know, with a beginning and a middle and an end and a kind of a constant theme running through it. Where is it? No, that isn't what it is. Writing titles is fun, by the way. Look at this. Your art isn't worth the paper it's painted on. I create, therefore I am. I pink, therefore I am. Not quite sure what that was about. Creativity Bites is articles on creativity. Productivity Bites is articles on productivity. Infinity Bites is articles on life, the universe, and everything. And Curiosity Bites is about the weirdness of life. So this was my latest. I called it a striking conclusion. I'm not sure whether I should read this or not, because I don't want to sort of get all polemic and stuff. But have a look at this. This is the structure of my article. So there's about 7 sections. They're all about the same size. Can you see that? There's a title for each section. And to be honest, I wrote the titles afterwards. I didn't have the titles and fill in. I wrote the thing. And every now and then I thought, I want to have a title per screen, more or less, so that it's and an image, so that it's more fun to look at. So I like pictures. So I try to write in pictures. At one point, I used to say I write poems with my photography and paint pictures with my words, something like that. So I do try to write pictures with my words. But having said that, it's really nice to see some real pictures. So let's look at the number of sections. This, for me, is the natural length of my articles. Not too long and not too short. Just right, I think, for me. So there's one. Every time there's a new heading, there's a section. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's an introduction and then about 7 bits. And I get the titles from the text. I try to split the text at a logical place where some sort of train of thought seems to have finished. And then I look at the next part and I pull out an appropriate title. And I try to make them fun. It's incredibly important for people reading to have fun titles. Not only does it give them a feel and hopefully a bit of excitement for the section to come, it also breaks it up and they can see how long the damn section is. You know, there's nothing worse than not knowing how long the thing's going to go on. It's like a film that isn't particularly exciting. And you want to see, you know, you look at your watch. God, when is this thing ending? By the way, this thing here is ending maximum of in 30 minutes from now. Of course, you can go. I won't know, but you know, when I read a book like this book here, I'll get to, let's see, I get to here's a chapter. Okay, you see the chapter starts there. I'll quickly look ahead. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a bit long, to be honest. I would much prefer that to be shorter. Here's one. There, that's good, you see. Starts there, finishes there. Love that. So I try to make my articles more readable by making the section shorter. I mean, it hasn't made the article shorter. In fact, it's made it longer by adding the titles. And yet, psychologically, it's made it much more manageable, because when someone starts a section, they can see the next section is just below. Really motivating. This is why I write a complete piece every day. I want to wash my hands of the thing in the evening. I want a clean slate in the morning. A clean slate. Not a single word has been written. And when I finish the day, I want to wash my hands of it. The thing is finished, done and dusted. And how satisfying is that? Very, very satisfying. If you write longer things than that, well, you can split it into smaller sections. I'm not a novel writer, in one sense, and I couldn't. That isn't my thing. Writing long things, it's not my thing. Doesn't do it for me. And it really might do it for you. That might be your thing, to write even if it's a short novel, novella, or, you know, it's still longer than this paragraph, right? So what do? Well, write in paragraphs, or split it up in your mind. You don't have to have the headings in the final version, but you could put the headings as you're writing it. So, you know, this paragraph's about this, give it a heading. This paragraph's about this. That could work. This is me. This is how I do it. I think as human beings, we need to see regular success. Little steps and little successes, little wins. And this is how I do it. When I'm writing this article, this is long for me, isn't it? Because look, if you look at one of my Paris photo chronicles, okay, there are the photographs, and here are the texts. All right, so this text here is about the size of one section. Okay, that's what I do every day. There's one, there's another, there's another, there's another. Okay, so you can see the length. It's quite short. There's enough to have about 3 paragraphs. I like having about 3 paragraphs. You see there's 3 paragraphs there? There's three boxes. A couple of those boxes have 2 paragraphs. Sometimes the paragraphs are only sentences. It's short and sweet. That helps me to progress. That helps people think I don't have too much to read here. I often write in 3 paragraphs, my little stories, and they are stories. There's normally a beginning, a middle, and an end. So that kind of makes sense. 3 paragraphs. The first one introduces the topic, the second one develops it, and the third one finishes it. The third one will often go back and, as the French say, wink at the first one. In other words, it's really nice to tie it up. You tie it up in a bow. It's like the end of the article goes back to meet the beginning. If you look at the beginning of this one, I'm glad that that's the case here. It's not always. I start by saying, "Here, kitty, kitty." And if you look at the last word, it's meow. So you can see that this article has come full circle in as much as there's a cat reference. It's in italics, and probably the story in the middle has somehow been buckled up, been tied up the loose ends. So that's an example. So if this is what I'm normally capable of, imagine how much of a chore this might be to me. So I treat it as though I'm writing a whole bunch of little articles, and that seems to do it for me. In the articles, it's less flowery. It's less, you know, in the Paris Photo Chronicles, I often throw in sort of words that rhyme, a couple of sentences might end on the same word, or internal rhymes, or words that sound good together or similar. A lot of alliteration, words beginning with the same letter. I often do that. That seems to be my thing, etc. I do less of that in the so-called articles, because that would actually get in the way. This has become a sort of art form in its own right for me. It's a photograph with text on top, and I play with the boxes. Normally, I try to show through the important parts of the photo. It's become a thing in its own right. Whereas in an article, people aren't really expecting that. They're expecting a reasonably coherent flow of thought from the beginning to the end, developing it, internal anecdotes and examples. So I shy away from the more flowery stuff that I often write on the Paris stuff. So that's that. I'm just wondering if, so a poem came out. I include poems in my Paris Photo Chronicles if they come out. Sometimes they're about the photograph themselves, because I'm a Paris fanatic. So sometimes it's pure and simple stuff about Paris, and not necessarily though. I'm just trying to find one that might be interesting. I tried to be a bit different with this photograph. I'll just read the text. I can't remember. This is me coming back to this a few days later. I haven't got a clue what I wrote. This is history. This is number 1532. Photos and texts in 1532 days. Don't expect me to know what I wrote. So, I think it would be honest to say I don't dwell on past glories or past failures, honestly. What should you do when you finish a piece? A small piece or a big piece? What should you do? Start the next one. Start the next one. If it's finished, it's history. You're not creating, and you're not expressing yourself creatively if it's finished. It's gone. The only way you can express yourself creatively, really, is to be creating. You can show people your old stuff. I'm showing you my old stuff here. But I'm not being creative as I show you this. I'm just showing you it. To be creative is to be writing the one I'm writing now. That's the exciting bit. I love sharing these. I enjoy looking back on them. I'm going to feel nostalgic just by reading this. And I wrote it about 10 days ago or 5 days ago. It's weird. What's your relationship to your writing? Let me know. Do you go back and read it a lot? Do you never look at it again? Are you timid? Are you nervous about sharing it with other people? Or are you proud? Are you happy? How does it go for you? How do you share your writing? Let me read this just for fun. Some are called to fight for flag and country. But which flag and which country and on which given day? God used to be part of the deal. But having largely forsaken us, we pin our colours to the mast, so others know where our allegiances lie and doubtless die. We perform duplicitous, I think I made that word up, duplicitous false flag ops to deceive and disrupt. We wave red flags in front of bulls and sometimes suffer the smashing consequences. We flutter white flags of surrender and submission, hoping others get the message. Lady Eiffel flies no flag today, although the Paris powers have shifted their boat logo to sky blue and wheat yellow. I hesitate to show my true colours in this city because I'm not even sure what they are anymore, and flavour of the month changes so quickly these days. It's funny because I'm reading this and I'm thinking, what the hell was I trying to say? And so now I realize that someone reading this for the first time would be the same, whereas in fact in my head it was very clear what was going on. We have the backdrop of the war in Ukraine at the moment. Everybody seems to be putting the colors of the Ukrainian flag, blue and yellow, on stuff. Artists are painting it on walls. I have created some little squares which I'm going to put on the walls of Paris. The Eiffel Tower was lit up in yellow and blue for a while, I think. And then we ask ourselves, to what extent do we want to literally pin our colors to the mast, show our flag, fly the flag, and then have to defend it? Because if you fly a flag, you might have to defend it because you've said what you believe in, or you've said what's important to you, and then someone else can then decide if they agree with you or they disagree with you, or they're neutral. And in some cases, they might attack you. And this happens with words as well. You can fly your flag with words. If you state an opinion, you're flying your flag, you're saying what you think, and other people, and you see this a lot on social media, other people will have opposing ideas and they might attack you with words. And in extreme cases, they could seek you out, So it's a bit scary to state an opinion, don't you think? It takes guts and a conviction and maybe a certain confidence. So I started off by doing some little paintings in the colors of the flag, the Ukraine flag, and I'm going to put them in the walls of Paris. But then I thought, hang on a second, I read some other stuff, maybe the Ukrainians aren't so great after all, and am I just jumping on the Ukrainian bandwagon? And what about the people in Africa and, Yemen, or, indigenous people in China being put in concentration camps, or, whatever. And then that gets you thinking as well, why would I pin my colors to the Ukrainian mast and not to the 𝗕𝗏𝗅𝗚, I don't know who the people around the world who are also being persecuted, or that's a point of view. Other people might not think that's true. Where do you decide? Where do you decide to say, this is it? I'm gonna, not only do I think I've found what I think I believe in, I'm gonna tell other people that's what I think. It's one of those questions, isn't it? And this comes up for me often in my writing. As a writer who writes daily and doesn't have an agenda, I can write about anything I like. I could have written about how terrible the situation is in Ukraine, couldn't I? But the thing is, as a writer, you need to see both sides, or all sides. Well, I mean, some writers, they don't. They are clearly on one side and they write from that side and they say, this is right and that's wrong. It's a bit, for me, that's a bit like the people who go to Paris and they only take pictures of the Eiffel Tower sparkling, or the Arc de Triomphe lit with the colors of the French flag. Nothing to rock the boat, nothing controversial. When I go to Paris, normally the first thing I see is someone under my feet as I leave the metro in a bad state, holding out a paper cup, if I haven't been accosted on the train already by someone doing the tour of the carriage. So what do? I don't want to do all my photographs of sad stuff, but I don't want them to do all my photographs of wonderful stuff as well. I mean, wonderful, the shiny side. So that's a dilemma, and I haven't really worked it out yet. Although if you read my stuff, you'll see the line I take. I sometimes give opinions on certain things. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes as often as I can, I try to see both sides, because if you can't see both sides, you're half blind. And that's not a valuable trait for a writer, I think. Because if anyone should be able to help people see more than one side of things, it should be writers. I think you can help people see things more clearly, not necessarily by just hammering home one point of view, because then people will just class you with all the people who think that. Whereas if you show that you can see both sides and you let people think for themselves as they read your words, this is probably more valuable than just blindly saying this is right and that's wrong. Because often enough, the people who agree with you will read you and nod their heads sagely and say, yeah, this is a good guy. And those who don't will think, asshole or idiot or something, maybe attack you. So I don't get too political in my stuff anyway. I'm more into the fun of it, to be honest, the fun of words and language than stating strong political views. I can so easily see both sides in many cases that I find it too ridiculous in many cases to have a strong point of view, because nothing's black and white. Very rarely is it black and white. And having said that, I will sometimes do some quite strong stuff if on a particular topic, if I think that, you know, someone really is a complete idiot. I remember I did some of my memes for in the Apparently series. It's apparently.space, I think it's called. Apparently.space is a website I have. Let's see if I can find it. This is an example where I did let myself go a little bit. Apparently.space. Trip into the blog there. I'll just let you see the homepage as well. This was a project I started a couple of years ago, and this is the front page. Apparently, this is a website called Apparently. So you can see where it's going, maybe. And then I write anything that comes to my mind. And I highly recommend you do this. Start writing memes. Start writing original memes. Don't quote other people. They've written their thing. That's their thing. You quote you. Write your own thing. Write it on top of one of your images or not somebody else's. They've done that. You've got your stuff to produce. You've got your things to create. Don't waste time using other people's stuff. It's old hat. Everyone else is doing it. Create your own images. String your own words together that mean something for you. It doesn't matter if it comes from an idea from someone else. Make them yours. It's very easy to write originally. You only have to string about 2 or 3 words together, which are unusual together, and do a search in Google, and you'll find 0 results. You know, if I typed, you know, red mouse coffee diver, knowing me, I'll probably put red mouse coffee diver saves the day. I'm sure there'll be no results for it. That could be the first line of a poem. In fact, I wrote a poem or a meme on that very topic, and it became a poem because the way I put those words together, which were an attempt to prove that it's really easy to be original, pleased me so much that it became a poem, which is funny. I don't know if I could find it. I've got my memes up here, but I don't know if I could find that one. I could try to find it, but it would get very frustrating. So occasionally, these are ideas that come to me. I found my structure, okay, black and white. I started doing color ones, but black and white, it's words. There's a funny little cartoon from the internet, and they all start with apparently ... How easy is that? I just had the idea one day. I'm going to see how many things I can write after the word apparently ... The word apparently is good because it means, but not necessarily. It means, but I could be wrong. But it leaves so much scope for irony, for teasing, for cynicism, although I'm not a fan of nasty stuff. It's so juicily, it just leaves things so open, and yet it set the stage. It set the stage for, if I say something apparently somewhat something, but it's ridiculous, I don't need to say, but it's ridiculous, because the words themselves will speak for themselves, and you'll decide if it's ridiculous or not. And the fact that I've started with apparently gives you the permission to say, yeah, but it isn't, you know. I'm just, new ones are coming to me right now, like, okay, I'm gonna, I just thought of something. I didn't do this. It could have been in the series. Apparently Trump, you remember Trump? Apparently Trump is the greatest American president of all time. Okay, I could write that. That wouldn't be quite enough. I'd have to somehow hint that it was he who said it. You know, it could be, apparently Trump is the greatest American president of all time, according to Trump, or something like that. The point is, if you have an idea, get it out. Don't waste your ideas. Look at these little cards. You see these little cards here? I have ideas, and then I create websites about them, and then I create business cards for those websites, and then I don't do anything on the website anymore, and I have 1 million cards with the name of a website which doesn't even exist anymore. But there's little more inspiring than an empty piece of card. So So I write on the back of them. Look, you can see there's all sorts of things written there, and I often create little series. For example, I've got a series at the moment. It's called Creativity Coaching, and I take these little cards, and on this side I create a 3-word or 4-word thing, and this is the theme for my 3 or 4 minute video. At the moment, I'm doing a series. Well, at the moment, 3 of them started with just. This is called Just One Fix. This says just start. And this says, I had another one with just somewhere, but I've just lost it. Yeah, so just. There it is, just one person. So you see the thing starting with just, that inspired other things starting with just. I think I've finished this series now. I don't think the next ones are going to be just one fix. Each of these videos, based on these words, has a quick tip or something to inspire you. And all I need is 3 words for it to hit home. Just one person. You just need to affect one person with what you create in life, and your life has been worthwhile. Just one fix. Just create one thing every day, and you will end up by creating amazing miracles that you never thought possible. Just start. That speaks for itself. Just start. Do you know how many people don't just start? Most people who have creative ideas don't start. So nothing gets created. So that's like mini memes, but on little pieces of card. This series here is a bit more official looking, and I had a series with Trump, and it wasn't particularly complimentary. It was making fun of Trump, and that was me deciding to show in that case. It wasn't so much about Republican Party or politics or anything. It was more about the fact that some of the things that this guy said I found worthy of mocking. And at some point I think you do have to show your colors, because otherwise what are you? You're just a wet blanket. You're just a doormat. You're just a damp squib. If you don't have any opinions, it's kind of wimpyish. If you have too strong opinions, the risk is you lose the ability to see the other side of the argument. This is the nice line that we walk as writers, deciding on when we're going to say this, when we're going to do that, always bearing in mind there's 2 sides to writing. One is getting the ideas out of us, and the other is hopefully letting them enter somebody else. It's another form of creativity, and creativity is about touching people emotionally. That's all it is. So part of the art is realizing that this is going to hit other people. How's it going to hit them? What effect do you want to have on people? I've got a comment, and the comment is Chris. Hi, Sab, just checking in. I have never enjoyed writing, but find your chat interesting. Thank you, Chris. Never enjoyed writing. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why. Writing what? Writing grocery lists? Writing tax returns? Or writing poems? Not sure what you mean by that. So maybe there's some types of writing you like and some types you don't. Who knows? This is I'm rambling here. I'm not showing you anything like what I was going to show you. One thing just gets me rambling. I was in a group yesterday, and one of the people there said, I'm doing this course at the moment, something like that. And he said that we should wake up in the morning and try to have an original thought, not an unoriginal one. Try to have and the person who was on this call said, I can't manage it. I just can't. There's too many things going on. Kids running around and work to do, and my thoughts aren't original. I felt a bit depressed, and I was sitting there thinking, I have the exact opposite problem. I can't stop having thoughts. They never stop. That's why you know, that's why I've got these. I've got about 5 different series of memes. It's why I write articles. It's why I write on my photos. It's like I was going to say it's like a disease. No, it's an obsession. It's borderline extremely unhealthy. It's like eating too many ice creams, which I do as well. So, you know, it's a kind of strange personality which I'm just trying to harness so that I can produce worthwhile stuff without dissipating my efforts everywhere. If it affects anyone, if it's worth anything, who knows? But you don't know until you try, do you? So, this is a nice one. Look, across, I can hardly see that, across a perilous slope in a hidden hamlet on a little visited hilltop near the Parc des Buttes-Chaumont in the 19th, a pitiless, timeless combat plays out. I can't bring you the final result, for the 2 adversaries remained frozen in a tense standoff longer than I could stay there. Maybe they're still crouching, quivering still. Maybe they're crouching, quivering still. How many bitter battles darken our capital daily is anyone's guess. My son's Kitty laid bare a last breath gasping birdie on his doormat today. The carnage continues. This is just me having pure, almost nonsensical fun, dreamt up by, you know, it's not a real cat, folks, and it's not a real mouse down on the bottom left there. But who cares? What is real? Words aren't real. Writing isn't real. Stories aren't real. Even our lives, are they real? Who knows? And here's a poem for you. Again, I'm doing this series of beautiful Paris street numbers. Most of them are white on blue, which is classic, but not very exciting. And if you go to some of the outer lying districts, for example, the secret little passages, you find much nicer numbers. And this one inspired a poem called Blistering Whiskers. 2 starry-eyed cats sat staring at the moon. The pale lady smiled, sipping time from a spoon. If you fancy a dance, I'll sing you a tune, she said, with a wink and feigned a swoon. Don't you know how to mewl or catcall or croon? The black cat spat back. You'll be gone soon. In the cool night, cat white purred, don't be a loon. It's we who'll be long gone by the light of noon. It's we who'll be long gone by the light of noon. I always say this, but I have to read a poem, my poems, a couple of times to remember the rhythm that I had in my mind. Sometimes I think, what the hell? But eventually it comes back sometimes. Yeah, so that was good. I'll just show you. So I've managed to completely avoid the entire new set of photographs and writing, which I had prepared. Here it is. I haven't even looked at, what's this? Oh, this is something else I do for English learners. I write a fun letter. I call it, it's a newsletter. I call it a fun letter every day. And I even managed to write little stories in that. I'll just put it like that, and then you can freeze the screen if you actually want to read it. Hang on. I'll make that a bit bigger so you can, there you go. Yeah, so the little stories, I put a little quiz in there. There's some vocab. This is another story. I'll freeze that there. And then the second half of the story is there. So squeezing little stories and stuff into my usual stuff. I had a whole bunch of memes that I was going to show you, but my standard memes, because I've got various flavors of memes. These are standard life, universe, and everything memes, but don't have time, no time. What I want you to do is start writing stuff. I've given you a theme this week, this 2 weeks. It's called Talking Trees. You see that? Talking Trees. The next show is in 2 weeks. I would love to read some of your writing on the theme of talking trees, or just trees, doesn't matter. You can illustrate it if you want, doesn't matter at all. And I did want to finish just by having a quick look at these, because by the time, this is my latest chapter in my Paris Photo Chronicles. So 9 new pieces of writing. And the thing is, by the time we meet again in 2 weeks' time, I'll have written another 14. So this is kind of going to be history extremely quickly. which is kind of sad, isn't it? It kind of makes me feel sad, and yet there it is. I did one of these. These things here. Do you remember those? I was telling you about them about 5 minutes ago. And I think it's relevant. I think it's all relevant. Everything is linked. It's seamless, to be honest, between me, my photos, my writing, my poems, these things that I'm doing now, speaking with individual people, really. It's all linked. There's no break. Everything is related to everything. Obviously, I try to talk about words on this show and photos on the photo show and Paris on the Paris show and creativity and productivity and art and stuff on the creativity show. But for me, it's just like a gimmick to get people together. So I could tell you about this. This was my latest creativity, what do I call it? It's short videos, 3 or 4 minutes, creativity coaching videos. And the idea was, who's leaving whom? That came to me. Why did it come to me? Don't know. I was thinking about death. And you can watch the video. It's on my Facebook page. But I was thinking about death because I was reminded of a poem, which is one of my favorite poems. I'll read it to you. And I might have read it to you before. And I might read it to you again. It's from this little book of funny poems. It's one of my oldest all-time books, funny poems. And despite it being called funny poems, there's a section at the end called epitaphs. And there's a poem here called Gone But Not Forgotten. Let's see if I can focus on that so you can actually freeze the screen. There it is. And that's the picture. So it's called Gone But Not Forgotten. This troubled world is sighing now. The flu is at the door. And many folks are dying now who never died before. And I've always loved that. And that made me think of this. What about another way of thinking about death? Because traditionally, we always think that when you die, you go away, you go somewhere else, you disappear. Boom. And those left behind are left behind. They've been left by you. And I thought, well, we don't know what happens after death. So what about if we think of death, we think that they leave us. When I die, all these people are going to leave me. They have to leave me. They can't stay with me anymore. They'd like to. They've enjoyed my company, but they've got other things to do. They've got places to be. They just have to go. They have to move on. So how can I feel better about that? Well, I found the solution. And the solution is to create things for them, which I give to them whilst they're still here, before they've had to leave. So one way of looking at what I do, I've decided, is that my objective in life is going to be to try to give as many little gifts creatively created by me to these people who one day will sadly have to move on, move away, move somewhere else. And then in that way, they won't be so sad when they've left, because they'll have a little part of me, and they'll be able to look at it and think, well, I'm really sorry I had to leave, but I've still got this thing from Sab, and it's really cute. I really like it. He did it for me personally, and he was a good guy. I liked him, and I think he liked me as well. So instead of thinking that you disappear when you die, what about thinking that everyone else does? And so they don't feel too sad because they're leaving. Give them something. Endeavor to give people things that they will be able to remember you and your relationship with them by. And I like that. That came to me as a thing. So this is basically another excuse for me telling you to create as much as you can, because it's worth it. It's wonderful. And to give it away visually, speak it away, or literally physically give it to people. It's no good creating something and then keeping it to yourself. What's the point of that? You can't touch people in that way. All right, folks, that's it for now. A lovely rambling show. I enjoyed rambling, listening to myself. Hopefully you got something out of it. Thanks, Chris, for the comment. I really appreciate it. You're watching the replay. Please comment. I'd love to see your comments. I will reply to them. Tell me about your creativity, about your writing. What is writing for you? How do you write? Do you have a routine? Do you do it every now and then when you feel like it? Do you have difficulties writing? Is it tough? Does it come flowing through you easily? Whatever the case is, contribute some ideas, and that'll be something for me to talk about next time. Okay. Bye for now, folks. And as ever, happy creating. And in this case, happy writing. Bye-bye.